Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. So, what is going on with Bitcoin? Did the bubble burst? Are we done? Is cryptocurrency over with? Or are we going to see another rally soon? Was that the low? I want to share my thoughts around where I think Bitcoin can go going into the end of the year, and then ultimately into 2018, and what that holds for the cryptocurrency space. And so I'm going to try to answer the question. I'm going to give you two different perspectives to look at, both bullish and bearish, but let's get to it. Very near term, first and foremost, Bitcoin, the chart on Bittrex right now. This is the 1 hour, so very granular look, and we've been coming down. We had this rising wedge that started to form after the big sell-off, which bottomed out around, depending on the exchange, 10,800, 11,000, but it was basically in that 12,000 to slightly below area before we started to bounce. We had a pretty good bounce. Then the wedge broke, and you can see we pretty much came down to where the measured move was for the wedge before we bounced, but then we had another low. We retested that, so we've retested this support level twice now, and here we are in the last couple of days just kind of marching higher, and it's trying to reassert itself. This red zone here is right around 13K. You do not want to see Bitcoin get much below this. Again, this lower line is the trend support line on this parallel channel. It could breach a little bit and retest this low here around 13.1, 13K, but we don't want to see it get much below that. Otherwise, that's the end of this parallel channel, and you could start to see another downtrend, another down leg. And here's why I'm a little concerned right now. And there's two ways to look at this. You can see in the big picture, looking at the 4 hours since the top, there is a very clear lower high pattern that's been forming, and you can see a general downtrend here. Now, because of the sideways action of the recent day, we're starting to breach that downtrend, which is good. And so that's leading me to get a little bit more bullish here, start looking at making some entries again, adding to my positions here after the dip, and seeing if we can get another leg up. And I think we will. But the big picture, though, is the bubble burst. Are we done? That's what I want to help answer right now. So let's go back in time. I issued a newsletter a couple of weeks ago, and I sent a tweet out saying, many of you will call this the FUD edition. This was on December 6th, and the price of Bitcoin was basically 13K. And in this newsletter, I said, first and foremost, I'm not selling. I'm not telling you to sell. But what I was pointing out was the fact that we were building this parabolic J curve that was getting very narrow. Ultimately, nobody knew the price at which Bitcoin would top, but the time was very clear. The backside of this curve ended before the end of December. And so between the December 6th when I sent this out and the end of the month is kind of when I was thinking we were going to see some sort of pullback, some correction, some break of this pattern. Now, this is a long-standing pattern that if we zoom out on the charts, we can see goes back many months, even prior years. So let's go back. Let's go to that chart that I sent out in that newsletter, and let me find that here on the daily charts. Here we go. And so here's what I want to show you guys. This curve, and I've maintained it on my charts just because of this, but you can see it goes back to the whole move that started basically in mid 2016 when Bitcoin was around $600-700. And it just had several rallies, and during this entire process we've seen several 30% pullbacks. We saw one there, we saw one in August, September, we saw a little mini pullback here from 7,500 down to 5,500, and then from that point on it was pretty much off to the races. And it's very interesting to note that this culminated with the launch of the CME futures, and I was very suspicious of that. I saw this first pullback and I thought, I'm not going to believe that they'll just let the price collapse prior to the futures going live. And it pretty much went higher after that, but then 1-2 days later, after the futures were launched, this thing started to really pull back very hard, ended in this dramatic climactic volume here at the lows, right around 10, 11,000 depending on the exchange, before rallying pretty quick. And since then, just choppy sideways action, retesting lows, a lot of uncertainty still in the market. Now you can see here on my chart, I've got some arrows drawn. This is the bear case, right? This is my bearish scenario where I'm thinking this is not the end. We could bounce. I'm thinking very near term that, like that 1 hour chart I just showed, is going to show some bouncing action, some upside, but then I believe it'll fade and will test again to the downside. And there'll be two tests. There'll be one, a retest of the most recent lows. And if it holds, that would create a very nice, very big double bottom pattern that could start forming here. And if it makes a higher low and starts to rally, then even stronger, because then we could be seeing the beginnings of an ascending triangle pattern that starts to form here in the 15,000 to 19,000 range, or 18,000 or so. And that would set up for a very big base that could launch Bitcoin much higher. If this level breaches, however, the next big level down is going to be 9,000, possibly down to $8,400, $8,500. And the reason that lines up is, one, that's a big support level there. That was a prior base. But if we did an entire Fibonacci retracement of this whole move up, starting from the lows, clear up to where it peaked, you can see that those two levels line up pretty well to some key levels here. So you can see the key Fibonacci level on this entire move. The first one was that 382 level, right around $12,370. And we pretty much touched that. We're bouncing a little bit above that. And then the next level down is, just around 8,000. You can see this little line, just give or take, around that area. And so that could materialize, and it would not be unusual to see these big retracements. Other people have been throwing out this number of 8,000, 8,500 or so. Most, probably one of the biggest names that so far has done that is Mike Novogratz, who recently paused new investors from his cryptocurrency fund that he was launching, and he said we could see $8,000 Bitcoin before we start hitting higher. Now you got to remember, that was the guy who said we're going to see 40,000 Bitcoin at the end of 2018, but not before a 50% correction. And so maybe that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the beginnings of that big correction. So to answer the question, and I'll tell you why this is a good thing, did the bubble in Bitcoin burst? The short answer is yes. I believe it did. But before you panic, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And here's why. Leading up into this entire curve, we've had several big pullbacks, several shakeouts, and we've climbed this wall of worry the whole time. It's a bubble, it's a bubble, it's a bubble, it's a bubble. And we'd had these pullbacks, and everybody said, I told you so. And then we'd rally and make new highs, pullbacks. And in the last 2 months, that really started to change. Once we breached that 8,000, 9,000, and things really took off in these last couple of weeks, I saw so many people coming out of the woodworks who were cryptocurrency experts. It was on the news every day. It was on CNBC. It was on the cover of Wall Street, on Barron's, on every financial publication I read. I could not go a day without seeing something about Bitcoin, something about crypto. And it was very much overheated. There was a lot of exuberance in the market. Social media was blasting it all over the place. And so it was just a matter of time. People were overly excited, overly into it. We could see no wrong. It could never go down ever again. It was going to go to 30,000 from here. And those were the signs that we're probably due for a little bit of a pullback. Now that we've got that, and maybe we'll see another leg down, maybe not, maybe we'll just retest the lows. But now that we got that pullback, it's good. It put a lot of fear back into the market, a good healthy fear, a cautiousness that we need before people just start saying, oh, just throw everything at it, take out a mortgage and buy tons of Bitcoin because it's never going to go down. Well, we saw that it could go down. So if you were one of the new folks that came into the space, and I know there's a lot of people that are very new, and you were buying at 16 and 17 and 19, welcome to the club. You just got a first dose of the madness and the chaos that we all love called cryptocurrency. And it's very volatile and it's very exciting, but you get these moves, and when they happen very fast. You wake up and it's down big. The altcoins are getting smashed, but just as fast as they go down, they pop and they rally big. And so if you're trading this like I am, you love it. So there's two things. Even if the bubbles popped, and let's say Bitcoin decides to just consolidate for months. Let's say it takes a while, right? We rally up and we come back down and we go one of these things and we go sideways before we start making new highs. Let's say it does that and we don't break above 20,000 for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. That's okay, because as soon as Bitcoin begins to stabilize and show that it's going to go up and rally and sideways, there is this entire universe of cryptocurrency that we can trade and take advantage of. And I guarantee you, when Bitcoin goes sideways and pauses, just like we saw 2 weeks ago, when Bitcoin was pulling back from 19 down to 17 and it was going up and down, Cardano went up 200%, Dash went up 100%, you know, Quantum had a 130% move, and Verge up hundreds of percent. I mean, there's going to be opportunities. There's going to be trading. So you don't have to worry that, oh, Bitcoin's going to go sideways and it's going to consolidate and it's never going to break 20,000 ever again. The hodlers, we're just going to have to be a little more patient. The long-term portfolios, you're going to have to wait. And this is actually a good thing. Some time to consolidate, time to accumulate, time to build up. But you got to pay attention. These other names, there's going to be new leaders that rise up from this list of coins. There's going to be projects that you have not even heard of yet that become the next leaders, the next big platforms, the next token that are going to change. And I am so bullish in the blockchain related projects, the revolution that's happening in industry, which leads me to believe, okay, if Bitcoin does go sideways for a couple of months, it's no big deal, because there's so much more out there. There's a ton, and you just got to be patient with it, and you got to accumulate and be hodling. So those are my thoughts. Now, could Bitcoin see another big leg down? I think we could, like I just said, but that's okay, because eventually it'll wash out all the bullishness. We'll find a very solid low, and this may have been it. This big double bottom might have been it, and we're going. But are we going to go straight back up to 20K and be at 30K in January? I find it hard to believe. We could. Anything can happen in this space, and generally we've been surprised to the upside. But I find it hard to believe just because of the rampant bullishness. I think we need a little bit more time, a little bit more fear put back into this market before we're ready to rock and roll. But that doesn't mean other things are not going to start to move and move before Bitcoin even hits new highs. There's going to be a lot of other names that are hitting brand new highs, and we're already starting to see that. So did the Bitcoin bubble pop? I think it did, and that's a good thing because we're ready. We needed it. You can see the coin market cap here. At one point, we were over $600 billion. We were at 600 and what did we hit at the top? Like 630 or something. Let me zoom in here to the 1 month. You can see we peaked out at around 642 and then very quickly dropped $200 billion off of that to 422, back up to 600, pulling in, and here we are just kind of bouncing around, making this little bit of an equilibrium pattern, trying to figure out what happens next, and that's good. We needed that reset, we needed the pause, and the risk is a little bit more manageable now, because when it's going straight up, it's a little scary because you just never know when the big shakeout is going to happen. Now that we're starting to see that, I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable about getting a lot more aggressive and retesting some of these support levels and seeing some new highs. So hang tight, guys. Be patient. Cryptocurrency is not going away. Like I said, is this an automatic sell? No. That's a big no. And we're going to see a lot more winners in the future. We're going to see a lot more names. I'll be putting out videos about what those are, those type of setups as they start to show up. But for now, we're going to see what Bitcoin does over the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks, more importantly. And look for that pop. Look for that retest of the lows. And we'll go from there. So I wanted to give you that quick update. Bitcoin had a significant pullback. If you're new to this space, welcome to the club. Hang tight. Learn how to read charts. Learn how to understand when a market is hitting extreme levels, when we're seeing risk. Learn how to read when things break down so you can get out of the way if you need to and buy back in at the lows when there's tons of good opportunities. So this will be an important week going into the end of the year and seeing how this action plays out. The two things I'm looking at: do we break above and clear this double bottom position here? Or do we break below and make a new lower low and continue this pattern of stair-stepping down? Right now, I'm leaning towards we break above, but this pattern is just so tight and so symmetrical at this point. It could go either way, and you can see it in the 30-minute chart. It's just really coiling up. It's really getting tight. You know, high, higher low, lower high, higher low, and it's just going to show itself here soon. So the next couple of days and the next week will be key to see what Bitcoin does. And if it breaks above, I mean, you could see a pretty decent rally. You could see a 15-20% rally in Bitcoin if this thing moves, and the alts will produce even more gains. So we'll be watching this close, guys. Until next time, take care.